Okay, Tracy, I loved watching your video with Trip. It gave me all the feels. So the first thing that I'm going to give you as a glow was you asked him how it was going. How was his reading going? He wasn't very, he didn't really give you much, but I think it's all new to him and you, but you first asked how it was going and he kind of gave you a little bit. One of the things that I think would help build that conversation and giving more than okay or it's good is diving in a little bit and asking, what's one thing that made you pick this particular book? And maybe it was a new book. I know for him, he had been reading it for a little bit, but maybe just asking some other questions to get him to give you a little bit more before you go into, I think the next thing you said, retell it to me, which was great. Because now you're getting that knowledge. Okay, is he retaining what he's reading? Does he know? Can he tell me the characters? And you're pulling so much information just from his retelling. So I think the way you started it was fabulous, getting him trying to talk to you. But just maybe pulling some of those other questions in.
Thanks.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I noticed that when he got to a word that he didn't know, instead of telling him the word or like giving him the strategy right away, you asked him, well, what do you think it is? And so it really turned it back on him, and he was like, he had to figure it out. And a lot of times our students don't have the confidence, so they just want to ask us like, oh, I don't know about this one, but we want them to try. So that was awesome that you did that. And then my suggestion would be when you got to the part where you asked him for a prediction and he was like, I don't know. I think that a great way to encourage him to think of a prediction is to share like a personal strategy that you use when you're reading. So my example was, I would have said, sometimes when I read, I like to pretend that I'm the character and then think about what would I do if I were that character, what would I do next? So making those connections and encouraging Trip to make those connections too.
That's great. Thank you.
I love how you took an interest in whatever he was reading. Like you didn't come with your own agenda. And sometimes as parents will want to come in and be like, well, you should be reading this. So you were genuinely interested in what he was reading. So that ownership from him was awesome. I love how you brought in the conflict piece. Right now it's very relevant in our world. So I thought that was pretty sly of you to do that. And so maybe giving some, you started down this path with giving some examples. So maybe just giving a couple more examples or maybe helping him think within your family a conflict solution. So you conflict or and a resolution that you guys have had together, because that makes it really real. And he can kind of make that book or that text to self connection.
That's a great idea. I hadn't thought of that. Thank you.
It was such a joy to watch. Thank you so much for sharing. I'm going to share my screen because I am very much a visual person. And so I kind of put what are the elements of how I would look at the elements of the conferring. And so connecting, asking about the book selection, having the students share, having them read, and then doing kind of like a compliment sandwich with your mini lesson and your goal in the middle. And so just basically kind of wrote down some of your words that fit into each one of these categories. And my overall thoughts in summary, the glow that I definitely want to highlight is that the use of academic vocabulary and questioning throughout the entire thing. So each time that you were speaking with him, you use those words like inference and predict and narrator and all of those. And then the questioning, you kept really having him delve in more. Sorry. Oh my word. Sorry. And then some of the suggestions were listed here, but I think the one that we could put as the goal is a compliment sandwich. And so giving really specific, actionable feedback of what was he doing really, really well. And then that goal is in the middle. And then also another specific feedback of things that you enjoyed seeing. with him. Thanks.
That was helpful. Thank you. I guess my question, so to end on that compliment sandwich, what could I say? What are some things that you saw that I could have complimented? Because I admit I don't know what I'm looking for.
That's a good question. One of the other things that I wrote down is just having him read a little bit longer passage. So my go-to is always having them read a page, because that gives me enough to like either notice patterns to set as a goal, or to pick up on some compliments that I could give them that they do really well.
Also, Tracy, I noticed that Tripp was using language like in the beginning, like when he just started. And so I think I would compliment that too, because he was using that reading vocabulary. So that was good.
And even when he came to the words when he was reading and he just kind of stopped and he looked at you and he wanted you to tell him, he didn't give up. Like he thought through it, and he kind of was using the reading strategies that we want kids to use, but in his own head. But even just coming out with that, and I think you did compliment him, but just, I think what Lori was saying is finding anything to say a compliment. Like even his retelling, it may not have been exactly how you wanted him to retell it, but he did a great job telling what he read. Like to me, I was like, okay, I have no clue what this book is, but I can picture it in my head just from what he gave.
Awesome. So I am really thankful for this feedback. I admit it felt very hard and scary, but I'm going to focus on giving him compliments for sure. And then I think I'm probably going to come back to the conflict. Like I'm going to do it tonight. And so since I gave him that homework, I'm going to come back to that and try to give some examples like you were talking about. And we've talked a lot about the pick a book thing, like why we picked this book because we had a lot of, it was a struggle to pick a book that he'd actually read. So anyway, that was really great feedback, and I can't wait to try it again tonight. Thank you guys.